Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Rohrig.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we are going to be talking again about House of the Dragon and The Boys. In particular, we are going to be talking about the season finale of The Boys and episode 6 of House of the Dragon. Season 2, I should clarify. We also have some stuff coming up on the horizon to get through. A few news stories and a few trailers that came out this week as well in our On Beat section. So let's get started with On the Horizon. On the Horizon is where we talk about what's coming up in the next week or so. And we're going to start things off with Futurama, which is returning to Hulu on Monday, July 29th. It feels like a distant memory, the controversy with them, not paying Bender's actor, or not being willing to pay his actor, and all the stuff that was happening around that. We've had a whole season, and we're having a whole second season now since then.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
But that is coming on Monday, July 29th to Hulu. Batman Caped Crusader is coming on Thursday, August 1st to Amazon Prime. This is the one that's done by Bruce Timm and basically the people behind Batman the Animated Series. We talked about the trailer for this before. It's like Batman the Animated Series, but made for adults.
Yeah. Shame we can't have Kevin Conroy rip. I mean, this looks fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Next up, we have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which is coming to Netflix on Thursday, August 1st. This stars Enid from Wednesday, the actress who played Enid in Wednesday.
You say that like I know who that is.
One of the main characters in
Enid
Wednesday.
for Wednesday. It's okay, well, I haven't seen that.
Shame on you. Shame.
Yes, I know.
And then Rebel Moon Chapters 1 and 2, the R-rated director's cuts, are coming on Friday, August 2nd to Netflix. So there you go, Zack Snyder cult members.
Yeah, Zack Snyder is, this is obviously a grift at this point. He's leaning into we want the director's cut of Justice League. So now every movie he produces is going to be the director's cut. And by the way, the original version was the director's cut because Netflix gave him total freedom and released whatever he wanted to release.
Yeah.
They didn't cut it down originally. This is just to get more money.
This is just so that the Snyder cult can say, oh, but you haven't seen the director's cut. And that's where you really see the true brilliance of Snyder. And then everybody else goes yeah, but I'm not going to watch that because he's not brilliant. And then lastly, Trap is coming on Friday, August 2nd to theaters. This is the M. Night Shyamalan movie with Josh Hartnett as a serial killer that is trapped at a concert where they're looking for him, and he's going around killing people and finding ways to get out of the situation he's in. We've talked about the trailer for it.
Yeah, we've talked about this.
But that's coming on Friday, August 2nd to theaters. And that is our On the Horizon segment, and now we're going to move on to On Beat.
On Beat.
On Beat is our news segment. Our first story is that Moira Walley-Beckett, who wrote on Breaking Bad, most notably she directed what is often considered the best episode of Breaking Bad, Ozymandias, is going to run an adaptation of the Dragon Rider fantasy series Fourth Wing at Amazon, and this is going to be done through Michael B. Jordan's Outlier Society production company. So I'm always happy to see more fantasy stuff. The problem has been that, and I've talked about this in particular with Amazon, that Amazon greenlights all these fantasy series, they did Wheel of Time and they did that Lord of the Rings, series and stuff. And every time they've done it, it's been with really inexperienced writers and showrunners. And I just never understood why they would put so much money into these projects from very untested talent, and it's yeah, those are the people that pitched it, sure, but you think they'd want to pair them up with somebody that's more experienced, to co-show run with them. them so that they can get a better product. And they've had some spotty records on it. But Moira Walley-Beckett is a fantastic writer and was given a lot of leeway to basically run her episodes on Breaking Bad. She got to like pick her directors and everything for most of her episodes. And like Vince Gilligan was really like into doing that for her, to like letting her kind of like act as a showrunner on her episodes.
Right.
So this shows you like it's an actually really talented writer with experience on one of the best shows ever made. And that makes me excited for it. I have not read the Fourth Wing series, but I have seen it. Like, it's popped up when I'm looking for new books to listen to, and it's one that I think I have it in my wish list on Audible. So it's something I've considered already, that I've looked into. So hopefully this turns out to be something good and not like what they did to Wheel of Time. But we'll have to see. Our next piece of news is that Inside Out 2, which is still in theaters, by the way, has passed Frozen 2 as the highest grossing animated film of all time. That's with $1.46 billion globally. So we talked about this record that Frozen 2 had back when the Super Mario Brothers movie came out, because it came in second. Like, the Super Mario Bros. Movie soared through the animated charts, got over $1 billion, came in second right behind Frozen 2. Well, now that's pushed back to third, or I don't know, maybe some other animated movies passed it since, but I don't think so. I think this is the first one since Super Mario that's challenged it, and it's actually passed it. So that's just kind of crazy, you know? It's a Pixar movie, so it makes sense. It's a Pixar movie beating a Disney movie that isn't Pixar.
Right.
But it makes sense, you know? Pixar's got a lot of cred, so there you go. And then that takes us to our trailers. We're gonna start things off with a trailer, or the second teaser, I should say, for Dune Prophecy. This is the Max series prequel to the Dune movies. So are you looking forward to Dune Prophecy?
Yeah, it looks cool. I'll watch it.
Max had that whole strategy back when it was still HBO Max. They were like greenlighting these series that they were going to be doing Dune Prophecy and The Penguin and these ones where they were like connected to like bigger movie franchises that they had. And I think this is the first one of that line of shows. I mean, I guess, or maybe you could say Peacemaker was the first one, you know, but like of the like bigger kind of shows that are meant to kind of more represent what the original was, even though Peacemaker was done by James Gunn, it was clearly done like on a tighter budget and stuff. Whereas this seems to be done on a pretty elaborate budget and seems to have a lot of the iconography from the movie in it. So there you go. Dune Prophecy. What did you think of this trailer?
Oh, I thought it looked good. I thought it looked solid.
It looked very Dune-y.
Yeah, it looked very Dune-y, very Dune-ish.
Dune-esque.
Dune-esque, yeah. It reminds me of Dune.
Shockingly, this series reminds me of Dune.
Yeah.
Next up, we got a trailer for Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. This one focuses much more on Jenna Ortega's character, and you get to kind of see like her as she's moving to this
she is the
small
central
town.
character.
But yeah, it's like focusing on her as they move to this small town and how she's having to deal with kind of like the legacy of her mother and everything that has to do with their house that they live in. And whereas like the previous one's kind of it was largely focused on Lydia and Beetlejuice. This one seems to be focusing on Ortega's
It's so
character.
funny, like her mother has like a legacy. This is just crap that specifically happened to her and her family as a teenager. I'm not sure how that became like celebrity status.
I've seen this kind of thing in a lot of movies. I mean, like Ghostbusters Afterlife did the thing where they're like, oh, you live on that farm? Like that place? That's crazy. Or, you know, like
right, yeah.
all that kind of like, you know, it's a way of kind of presenting an ordeal for the character to go through where they're like, their family has this like legacy or something of this crazy stuff happened and they're kind of like urban legends kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
You can kind of see where they're going with it, though. It's also kind of cool that they showed what looks like a callback to the Daylight's Come and We Gotta Go Home musical thing from the first movie.
I hate this, like, weird, dramatic, like, remix of the song. The whole thing about it was, it was
Oh,
a
no,
fun
I'm
song.
not talking about the use of it in the trailer. I'm talking about that they showed a scene that looks like it's a callback to that.
Oh, to
scene.
Specifically to the scene. Okay. I get what you're talking about now, yeah.
No, the remix is like, I think, straight for the trailer, but that's a typical thing to do. Remix a song and make it like dark and edgy or.
Yeah, for a trailer. And I'm like, that's like so out of touch to do that, cause like that was just like a fun song from the end of the movie where they're like dancing and it was supposed to be like just a fun thing.
It's very common. I mean, remember in Black
Yeah.
Widow where they did like the cover of
Oh yeah, I
Smells
hated
Like
that.
Teen Spirit, you know?
Hated that too. Yeah, I just hate like Hollywood's obsession with like these dramatic covers of popular songs for like trailers is so weird to me. Like I don't get it.
They should do like a dramatic cover of like a Weird Al version of a song.
Right? Oh yeah.
It's all just eat it, eat it,
Eat it, eat it. Yeah. You know, they should have done that for like Weird the Al Yankovic story.
Yeah.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah. Next up, we got another trailer for Alien Romulus. I like that they're showing so much stuff on Earth. Like, I think the stuff on Earth compromises a very small percentage of what this movie is going to be. Probably like the first 5 minutes or something.
Oh yeah, because it's clear the entire movie takes place on the space station.
But I don't recall
because it's
seeing
classic.
Earth in any of the Alien movies before.
Well, I haven't seen all the Alien movies, so I'm going to take your word on that. I haven't seen
all of them.
And the ones I've watched.
Yeah, like I don't recall seeing Earth and Alien. I don't see it in Aliens and Alien 3.
Does Alien versus Predator 2 count? Because that takes place entirely.
Well, no, that doesn't count. That's different. Because that's all set like in modern times stuff. Like, but like Aliens, like the Alien movie universe is set like in the future.
Yes, it is.
And
yes.
we haven't seen that version of Earth, you know? Like,
no,
I don't think we've seen it.
No,
and we're going to be getting more of that because the Alien TV series that Noah Hawley is doing is called Alien Earth. And that takes place on Earth, I believe the whole thing does. So we're going to be getting a lot more of it, but it's interesting seeing it here for like the first time. It has kind of like a very, I don't know, like Blade Runner-ish look to it almost cyberpunky type look to it. So I thought that was kind of interesting and cool.
Yeah, it looks like it's a group of like desperate young people who like, I guess like they're trying to like steal something off of the space station. That's gonna be like a ticket out of like their situation, which apparently is pretty bleak.
I have this theory when I was thinking about it, and I'm like, this is probably something that's been discussed about Alien in general as like a theory, but like I'm not like into the Alien fandom, so I wouldn't be aware.
Oh no,
I'm
not either.
But I have this kind of theory from watching this trailer that this is kind of a parallel. It's like telling a story of basically like sexual assault and forced carrying a child to term. Because if you look at it, like they really sexualized the way that the face huggers implant their eggs into people in the trailer. You could see it. It's like kind of weird sexual assaulty type gross, like the way they did the scene, you know, like they showed the scene where it's like, it's trying to get into the guy's mouth and he's like trying to resist it. And it's like, I'm like, this has this very like sexual assault kind of vibe to it. And then the aliens, of course, gestating within their chest cavity and then bursting out kind of has like this weird like abortion kind of, or like anti-abortion kind of, I don't know. I have this weird feeling that that's kind of what they're going for in this movie. But like all the elements of that are there in the original Alien and Aliens.
Yeah, they're in the original,
So I wonder if I bet you there's been discussion about that already within the fandom and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody like came up with that. I think it's cringe to like, go out going like, oh yeah, this is just like abortion. It's like, it's a fucking alien. Like, I don't know.
I don't know, man. Like, it's just, like, that's kind of the vibe I was getting from this trailer in particular. And the scene that I'm mostly referencing, because they showed a few more of them here, but there was one in particular that was in, like, past teasers as well, where it shows, like, the facehugger attached to this guy's face, and it's like, it looked like it was trying to probe, like something was trying to probe into his mouth.
Well, yeah, because that's how it works.
Yeah, but I mean, like, the way it was done just seemed very, like, assault, like, sexual assault. Like, it just really kind of had that vibe to it, and that's what struck the chord in my mind.
I mean, it has that vibe because it is an unwanted physical intrusion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why I was thinking, like, I think there might be, like, a parallel there, or, like, an analogy there, you know? But I'm not sure. That's kind of my conspiracy theory.
Well, I mean, you could be right. Yeah, I mean, it's plausible.
Yeah, it's kind of like Frozen being about coming out of the closet or something, you know? There were a lot of theories about that, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of fan theories about that. There's a lot of fan art about that. Not that I would know.
Getting a little defensive there, Will. You need to cover up those 2 terabytes that you got of
what?
All right, our next trailer was a new trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine, the movie will be out by the time this podcast is edited and available. But we're talking about this trailer in particular just because they took like a really interesting tonal shift with this trailer, where it was presented in a much more serious light than like the past trailers were.
I don't know if I would like call it interesting. I think it's like something like they had to do, because like they spent like the entire marketing like playing up the comedic elements, you know, and like the comedy. And I think it came time to like closer to release of the film also showcase that this movie has a heart. This movie has like a soul. This movie has like great performances.
I don't think they did that with the past Deadpool movies though, did they? With the movies had heart. Both of them did. The first 2.
Yeah,
but like I don't remember them advertising that.
I don't know, but like I remember I've been like reading interviews and stuff, and like one of the things like they keep bringing up is Hugh Jackman's performance as Wolverine is something he says like he's particularly proud of his performance in this film and stuff. So you can tell like they really care about that aspect.
It kind of feels like I'll constantly refer to this as like Deadpool 3 and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And Deadpool and Wolverine sounds like a subtitle or something, but it really kind of feels like it's 2 movies in one. Like we're getting a Deadpool movie and a Wolverine movie.
Oh, yeah.
Deadpool
it's like,
and Wolverine. It's like a 2-part movie almost, you know?
Yeah, I think like Ryan Reynolds said, you know, like, is this like Deadpool 3 or is this Wolverine 9?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah.
And I think before this trailer, it felt very Deadpool dominant. Like it felt very much like everything was in the tone of Deadpool, everything was in the style of Deadpool. But here you're seeing a lot of stuff that's very reminiscent of Logan. We got to see Daphne Keene's X-23 character show up in this who was in Logan. That was cool to see. It's like, okay, that's a big cameo that we didn't know about, that apparently she'd been asked about it and lied about it.
You could have, you could save that for the actual movie, but that's fine. Like,
I heard there's a lot of other stuff that has not yet been revealed.
That's what I heard. That's what they're saying. So
yeah.
Like, I guess, okay.
They did the opening screenings and stuff already, and some reviewers that went have said that there's a lot of other stuff that we haven't seen yet. And that a lot of the stuff that we're looking at is from very early in the movie. Like the initial trailers are like, so this is all about the TVA, and they're like, oh, that's like the very beginning of the movie or something. So I'm kind of interested in seeing like where the movie goes and what they end up doing. And I think the first 2 Deadpool movies also had a lot of heart. I just don't think they really advertised it, you know? That's what makes this a little interesting to me. Like, but it kind of goes in tone to like, if they're going to have very Deadpool style trailer, that they need to have a very Wolverine style trailer as well.
Yeah, no, I agree.
We also got to see a lot of stuff that we first saw in Loki, which is kind of interesting because we knew the TVA and stuff, but I didn't know that we were going to be seeing kind of that distant end of time area, you know, that junkyard of time.
Yeah, I didn't know either. It's cool. I'm looking forward to seeing the movie, though.
Yeah, definitely. And then the last trailer we're going to be talking about is Joker, Folie, Deux. And
I still haven't seen the first one.
You haven't seen Joker?
No, I haven't.
Oh, wow, yeah. You need to get on that.
I do, yeah.
I mean, it looks interesting. I'm not as intrigued for this as I was for the first one. And I really liked the first movie, but I don't know, like, I think the first one did this really interesting parallel with the King comedy, that Martin Scorsese, and then, like, kind of replicating that, like, it was kind of like almost like a cover of that, you know, like a movie version of a cover, almost. And I thought that was kind of interesting, the way they were doing it and the way it was being shown in the trailers and stuff, and I ended up really liking the movie. This one seems like it's very referential of the first movie. Like, there's a lot of scenes that's like, oh, so this is like a scene from the first movie being copied by not just Joker, but also Harley now with him, you know, like the famous stair dancing scene, you know, and then they show it and it's like, oh, now she's on the stairs too, and she's also doing a dance, and it's just not really selling me on it.
It's
like,
just
I have confidence that it's going to be good. I have
Right.
confidence it's going to be good, and I'm going to watch it, but like the way it's being presented isn't really selling me on it, is what I should say. Like, I know it's a musical, and so they're going for a very different kind of tone than they did with the original, but I don't know. It's not selling me, but I'm already sold, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, I was sold just by the fact that it's a Joker sequel, if it had been a Joker sequel, but they didn't have Todd Phillips directing and they didn't have Joaquin Phoenix reprising, you know, then I would have been like worried and gone like, and seeing a trailer like this, I might have been like, I don't know. I'm not sure this is for me. But I know that they were both kind of saying saying that they would only kind of do a sequel if it like made sense and worked and stuff. And I kind of have some trust in them because the first movie was good. That this should be good. It's just, it's not the trailer that's selling me, I should say.
Right, yeah.
As weird as that is, as complex as that is. But that is it for our On Beat section, and that leaves only full spoilers. Today on Full Spoilers, we're going to be talking about The Boys Season 4, Episode 8, titled Season 4 Finale, which was originally titled Assassination Run, but had its title changed, obviously, due to recent events.
Yeah,
and then we're also going to be
talking... changed due to recent events.
We're also going to be talking about House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 6, Smallfolk. So let's kick things off with The Boys. Season 4, Episode 8. What is your, like, boilerplate reaction? What is your initial reaction to the Season 4 finale?
It's a good episode. It was fun.
I know you had some issues with some of the last two episodes.
Like 2
episodes in particular ago, you had some issues, and then last week's episode you had a few issues with as well.
Last week was like a 7. This week I would say like probably an 8. I thought it was solid finale.
378.
Yeah.
That's somebody's area code.
I don't know. I was like a good finale. Had like a lot of bombastic moments that you would like want from a good finale, you know, like Butcher coming in and just killing Newman with like his tentacle powers.
I was kind of like hoping for something cooler as far as his power, you know, because it was so hinted at and stuff. But I was kind of like, I don't know. And then it made me second guess certain things. Like, how did Ezekiel get torn in half if he's stretchy?
Because like apparently like Butcher's really strong. Again, Victoria Newman was like invulnerable. She took a bullet, nothing could like touch her from the outside, and he just like ripped her apart like nothing. So
yeah, that's another thing though, is like I've been having kind of an issue this whole season, and it kind of started with when we found out that Victoria Newman was invincible or invulnerable, and it was kind of like, what? Since when? And then it's like they're making it like all of them are invincible. It's like the Deep, who seemed very cowardly before. It's like, oh, he's like invulnerable and has super strength too, which we didn't really see displayed. And
I mean, with the Deep, like we've known that he's had those abilities since the beginning.
I don't know if they displayed him being as strong since the beginning as he did when he just punched through a guy's face.
No, he's barely done it. It's because he's barely done anything. He's had super strength since the beginning. He's not like as strong as like Homelander or anything, but he is stronger than a normal human.
Yeah, I just don't feel like we've really gotten a good representation of that until now, and it feels feels weird to me. It feels like weird power scaling.
That's fair because the show didn't like really do anything to communicate that, because Deep has not really done anything for the entirety of the show except be a joke. So yeah.
So it's like I've kind of had a few issues like that with this season as a whole, of just like, I don't know, like there's a few things like that, and we've talked about what they did with like Kimiko and Frenchie's relationship and how they kind of sidelined that out of like nowhere, from nowhere. Like there was no hints at that the past season.
And one criticism I do have of this episode is I did like the ending where they're all being rounded up, and the two characters from Gen V, they get to like Frenchie and Kimiko.
Sam and Kate.
Yeah, and Kate like mind controls Frenchie, while Kimiko is like screaming, and she actually like talks for the first time in the series. She actually like vocalizes while she's screaming. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a great scene. It's a fantastic scene. Also, I can't help but feel manipulated by the writers because they hastily got that romantic relationship back together, like at the end. I feel like just to have that moment.
I felt like
after they had them like driven apart for the entire season.
Like, I feel like them driving them apart and then to that moment, like, hurt that moment.
It's manipulation.
All filmmaking is manipulation. It's like, it's bad. It's poor manipulation. It's not good.
Yes, that's my argument. It's blatant because you can tell they're trying to manipulate you into like feeling horrified. And
I think it has the reverse effect though, because the weird strain they put on the relationship this season just really hurt their story overall between them. And then they come back and it's like it's almost like the moment of playing on your emotions by going, oh, look, they got back together and now we're tearing them apart again is almost like...
I'm gonna play devil's advocate and say like the intention behind it was good. Like I see what they were going for, where it was like kind of like this realization and reckoning between Kimiko and Frenchie that they've both done horrible things in their past.
They should have never done that story. And that
they could,
it was a stupid story.
They've both done horrible things in their past, and they gotta learn to like forgive themselves for it.
There's other ways they could have brought that up.
The way they did it was completely awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I just felt like
Colin ended up being a pointless character.
when they got back together right before they were abducted, it's like, yeah, you have the moment between those two parts where they get back together and when they're abducted is successfully done. But everything else they did to the season with their storyline drastically hurt the moment that they came back together.
Yeah, like it undermined everything. The way they did it. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. I hated it. I was like, oh, this does not work. I was not a fan of their story this whole season, and when it was just storyline, it's like, okay, they're not even actually doing anything interesting.
If I take it just in the episode alone, it's good, but in the context of everything that happened, it's like, it just like makes everything pointless.
Yeah, it's like, what was even the point of you have, the Frenchies, the guy that Frenchie was into and all that kind of stuff. Like, the moment he confesses to the guy, the guy just says like, never see me again or something like that, and you don't. That's it. So it's like the last time
he's gone for the rest of the show,
and then Frenchie turns himself into the police with no consequences because he's back out like immediately again.
He disappears for an episode.
Yeah, it was just so dumb. Like, it just hurt his story.
Yeah. Oh no, I agree. I was not a fan of his storyline this season.
Yeah, it just didn't work. I think I had it kind of an issue this whole season, and that was my issue. I'm not one of those people that's angry because the show went woke.
No, I mean, it was established.
It's just, there's a lot of stuff that just is not working because they it's like they tried to create forced drama into situations that didn't need it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then resolved it like in a way that made it entirely pointless.
It was because it was a bad storyline. That's all.
Exactly. It very much reminds me, and I think I referenced this before, of like in later seasons of Dexter, when it's like, oh, well, we need Batista to be doing something, so he's going through a divorce or something. And it was like, this is so boring and pointless, and it has no effect on anything else that's happening. Why the hell are we spending time with Batista outside of the police station? We don't need to. It's unnecessary. It does nothing to help anything. What the fuck?
Right. Oh, yeah.
And that's what this kind of felt like. It's like, what was the point of this? It did very little. The only thing it did was the whole like, oh, they both have stuff in their past that they're ashamed of, but they handled Kimiko's side of that in a fucking flashback, And then the other part where they tried to do that with Kimiko's storyline, where they had her kind of encountering her old group and, trying to track them down and doing stuff, also completely pointless. Like, it just kind of, she was doing it and then they just kind of gave up on it and said, oh yeah, let's just stop doing this.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know, like, that's the thing about a lot of the stuff that was good in this episode is it was good in this episode, but it feels tainted by what was done in this season before.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk like Butcher's narrative. He was like, it's not a hospital because like he was in a safe house, apparently dying, and they got like they got Ryan in there with Mallory and Butcher, but mostly Mallory got like very insistent that Ryan stay there, and Ryan didn't want to be, and then like he kills Mallory.
Yeah, is this another stupid character moment for Mallory?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Where she was was being way too pushy.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you're obviously going to turn him away by doing this. Like, you should have been more calm and slower about how you were handling it. And it's like this was an obvious reaction.
Yeah.
And
it's obvious.
And it felt dumb, and it also kind of felt like it felt disappointing because after the last episode where we had the whole puppet show thing and how Ryan interrupted it and kind of spoke his true feelings like live on air, and then you had like Butcher reacting to being like see, like, I can trust him or something like that, and then for him to like lose faith because Ryan snapped and accidentally killed Mallory when it was such an obvious thing that was going to happen because of the way Mallory did it, you know?
But you also gotta remember, like, Butcher is mentally, he's hanging on a knife's edge. He's got Kessler in his head. constantly like, pushing and pushing.
It
and
just
so,
feels that's the reasoning they're giving, but that doesn't mean it worked, is what I'm saying.
This is the element where Butcher loses faith.
Mm-hmm. And to me, like that, it just doesn't work.
He gets into Kessler. So like when you see Butcher show up and he kills Newman, like that's Kessler fully in control.
Well, yeah, I mean, even says like, you're welcome or something like that in a very Kessler-esque way.
Yes, yeah.
And he didn't listen to Huey, and where normally if it was he'd be hearing Huey because there's what they've been establishing this whole time is like how he sees Huey kind of like his departed brother, and so Huey thinks like I might be able to get through to him, and then it just completely rings on deaf ears.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. Like I think there's a lot of this episode.
You're not a fan of this episode.
I think a lot of this episode is good, but it's just everything that came before it in this season makes it not good.
Fair.
It's like you said, like if you take it in the context of just the episode, it's good. But you take it with everything else they did this season, it's like it just feels forced and bad.
Yeah, I mean they could have done a better job crafting the rest of the season to lead up to this.
Yeah, I mean exactly. It is a lot of it was just super disappointing to me. A lot of the elements that could have been more interesting were kind of rushed in the last 2 episodes. The shapeshifter could have been like a through line through the whole season, and it would have been more interesting. And here,
Shifter only shows up in the second to last episode, and then
and then becomes a huge part of the plot, and then it's like there and gone.
Shifter's like the main villain of the last episode.
Yeah,
when you think about it, and then like the whole thing with Sage only showing up at the very end of the episode.
Yeah, and it just felt weak.
To announce like she perfectly manipulated everything.
Yeah, and it's like it wasn't one of those things where like, oh, all the pieces fall into place, and it's like, wow, that really was a cool plan. It's like all the pieces fall into place, and it's like, wow, that really was a very juvenile and stupid plan that anybody could have come up with, not just the world's smartest person. Like it wasn't that clever. Like nothing about her plan ended up really being all that clever. It was different than what Homelander was led to believe, but what Homelander was led to believe was incredibly stupid.
Right.
And what ended up happening was just less stupid. It wasn't like brilliant, it was just less stupid,
Well, they got Robert Singer to take the fall for Victoria Newman's death, which, how'd she know that was going to happen? How'd she know, like, Butcher was just going to come in and tentacle kill Newman?
Yeah, it just wasn't very well planned,
But maybe, like, that was, like, a contingency, like, she had. I guess, like, she knew, like, the boys were after Newman, and so I guess maybe she kind of figured, if Newman is successfully killed, we can pin that on Robert. I don't know.
I mean, it would have been smarter if they dropped some breadcrumbs in with her maybe somehow, without us knowing it was her, getting out information on how they could kill Newman so that it would be a setup, and then they could reveal that it was her that leaked that information. That would have been more interesting, and they did not do that. Yeah, they could have done
it smarter. I mean, it was clear, like, they made it, like, kind of clear from the outset that she was keeping tabs on the boys' activities to some degree. She, like, told Homelander she had A-Train feeding them information she wanted them to have.
Yeah, but I mean, that's just...
And that raises question is like, was A-Train working for Sage? Was he feeding her back information? What was he telling her? We don't know.
A-Train wasn't even in this episode.
A-Train doesn't show up in this episode, so we don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just so disappointed by so much about this. It's just, I was like really hoping that everything would come together, and it's like, it just doesn't. Like, it just doesn't come together in a satisfying way. It's like you got cool cameos and cool little moments and all things that are cool on their own, but when you take in what was built up to that moment, it just doesn't work. In almost every case. I think Grace Mallory was acting entirely out of character, and that made that whole scene just like almost painful to watch, and not like in a good way, not like in it's so painful and dramatic, but like painful to watch as in like this is being so poorly executed.
She was acting in the way that would get her killed because the plot needed her to die.
Yeah, exactly. In like the most obvious way, and it just did not work. I think that they killed Victoria Newman like that in that moment after she kind of came forward and was like putting it out there to help them because she finally realized
I seen that come a mile away.
I know, and that's what made it bad.
I thought it was good actually, because like I thought it was kind of like a play on like all those moments, like when they bring Kamiko on and they bring Starlight on, and like Butcher like always like bitches about like having to work with soups. He's like, and like this is like another thing where Huey wants to bring a soup on board, and like at this point Butcher's totally like lost it, so he's just like no deal and like kills her. it's kind of like a play on that.
But
So
a very bad play, I think.
yeah.
It's the theme of this episode. It's just very bad plays on all parts. You know, it's the only thing I think in this episode that really left me intrigued, and just call me a sucker for like, you know, mystery. But like, what's happening with Ashley?
Oh yeah.
Is she getting some power? Like, what's going on there? Like, that's honestly the most compelling thing in the whole episode to me.
They left it a mystery as to what the V's going to do to her. I mean, I thought that scene was funny though, with like Black Noir like killing like the other Ashley, and he's like, "Oh, I got Ashley," and like Deep is like, "That's not Ashley, dude. That's other Ashley." Is like,
and then the Deep looks down and goes, "Bro."
He looks. No, it's like Black Noir is like, "I don't freaking know. There's like everybody here is like named Ashley."
No, I mean, like you said, he looked down. Deep looked down at Black Noir's crotch and said, "Bro."
Oh,
and then
yeah,
Black Noir
because...
realized he had a murder boner.
Yeah, okay, yeah, exactly.
Which is a callback to something that they talked about.
Which is callback like a conversation they had.
Yeah, so I thought that was a little funny.
Feisty. Like the new Black Noir.
I did like the scene where the Deep was, when they were tracking down and killing all those people, that the Deep grabbed that one guy and was like making him say that he's like the smartest member or whatever. And he's like, "I don't believe you, you know, it's like, obviously you're lying, but it's good enough for me." And the guy's like, feeling like, "Oh yeah," and then he kills him anyways, you know?
Right, yeah, exactly.
I thought that was a good scene because it's just playing into the fact that the Deep is like terrorizing somebody just to help his vanity, you know?
Oh yeah.
So I thought that worked. I thought it was appropriate that when they were rounding up everybody that loves sausage is the one that went after MM.
Yes, love sausage.
Because that's something, you know, it's business between those two characters. Eventually, like, you know, in the final season, MM has to kill Love Sausage. It just has to happen.
Oh yeah, it has to.
They keep re-encountering each other, you know.
And like the one girl from Cindy tried to capture Starlight, but she flew away.
Yeah, this is like an evolution of Starlight's powers, which would be more interesting if they didn't just start doing that in this season.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't do anything with her, like, her powers were practically a joke. And then, like, this season, they're like, "Oh, she can fly, too," but very badly, and then the last moment, she flew well.
One of the problems is, like, they had her, like, depowered for a whole season. They had her attack freaking Firecracker, and then, like, that, like, rattled her to the point where she couldn't, like, activate her powers after that.
Yeah.
And for the rest of the season.
It's not just that, though. It's that they, you know, she got onto the fucking 7 and had never tried to develop her powers more before. Like, what? It's just, I don't know. It's kind of weak to me.
I mean, it's whatever. It doesn't bother me as much.
It's like I said, I had a big issue this season in general with power scaling.
But yeah, she flies away, so the only members of the boys who don't get captured at the end of the season are Butcher and Starlight.
Mm-hmm.
Which is funny because it makes sense, like, the first thing Homelander would do, like, you know, they would do after they've essentially won is go after the boys, which they do.
Mm-hmm.
And we see, like, everybody get confronted or captured, but we don't see, like, anybody confront Butcher. You know, he's just in, like, a black, looks like an Impala, like, just driving.
He's in the supernatural car.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think the best part of the episode was a tiny brief moment at the very beginning of the episode where they showed a news clip where they said that the A-Train movie was being written off as a tax write-off.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Yeah.
Yeah. A reference, of course, to David Zaslav and HBO and Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know, man. This season had some highs and it had some really big lows.
It was very uneven.
The episode on its own strengths is fine, but as accumulation of everything that came before it in this season is the weakest season finale of the entire series, easily, in my opinion. And some people are like, we're going to have to wait for the boys to find out more, but I've come to the conclusion after this that I think Gen V is a better show than the boys.
Oh yeah, I like Gen V season 1 much more.
Yeah, and
like much more.
And when Gen V ended with hints that we're going to lead into the boys season 4, they said that season 4 of the boys was going to lead into Gen V season 2.
Well, it kind of does.
Like, so I think we're going to get some more stuff going on. Some more. So we're going to get some of the answers of what's going on
because like the coup, like Homelander's coup has begun, right? Like,
I mean, that's got to play a part in what's happening.
That's got to play. Yeah, the world is fundamentally changed at this point, and we saw like, you know, Kate and the other kid, Kate and Sam, like directly playing a role in it in this episode. So like,
it makes me wonder if they're going to end up. I mean, I think this would be the right way to do it. Would be to have at least one of the boys' characters characters, maybe Frenchie, maybe Huey or something in Gen V season 2. Because they're captured and maybe they end up in the same spot as the Soups and that are all captured in Gen V, you know?
Right.
And that would be kind of a bit more interesting, I think. But I don't know. I don't know, man. I just gotta say, like, to me, it's the worst season of The Boys. And it's like, even though the episode itself had some cool, shocking moments and some surprising things that happened and stuff, when you put it in the context of a season, it's the worst. That's easily of The Boys.
That's how I'm still looking forward to season 5, especially like if they go with like,
I kind of just want to watch it to finish it now, you know?
You're right, yeah.
Like I'm not particularly excited about it. I just kind of want to finish it. And
I think I'm excited for season 5 because it is the end. And so because like they do have to, you know, they can't just like reset back to status quo. So they have to do a story that ends all the plot threads that have been running since the show started.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of hope for it anymore, I think, after this. And I'm honestly, I'm much more excited about Gen V season 2, but I'm also kind of a little bit frightened about that because one of the best characters in that show, the actor died, you know? And they had to restructure the show around that, and it just kind of puts a dark cloud over that as well. So I don't know, man.
We'll see.
I don't know.
We'll see.
I'm still in it. I'm still gonna watch season 5. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed to use the Kevin Sorbo animated show.
I think if they didn't announce season 5 as the last season, like I would be out. I'd be like, I don't know how much more, but since it's like the last season, I can watch it just to see how it ends.
Yeah, same. Like I kind of exactly. Like I think if they hadn't announced that season 5 was the end, I might be kind of at like a ending point there. I might be like, I think I'm done at this point.
Right.
But because it's coming to an end and I've already gone through 4 seasons, I'm like, might as well finish it. That's kind of my reaction on that. One scene we didn't talk about, Soldier Boy.
Oh yeah, they teased Soldier Boy coming back, which again, not a surprise.
Not a surprise.
Surprisingly, like Homelander had seemed to have like no clue they were keeping Soldier Boy alive.
The whole scene that ended up taking away Soldier Boy, and also at that moment, that's when everybody thought that Queen Maeve died. So I wonder if we're going to end up having Queen Maeve come back in the final season. They gave her a good exit where she was like faked her death and stuff, but does the reveal of Soldier Boy still being alive now like kind of put that in jeopardy with Homelander being able to figure out like, hey, wait a minute.
Right.
If Soldier Boy didn't die in this incident, is there other shit that I need to look into that seems to be off here?
Right. Either that or they can just completely ignore that and just not do that.
Yeah, watch like Queen Maeve won't be in the final season, A-Train won't be in the final season. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It was weird that he wasn't in the finale.
Yeah, it was weird. Kind of made it like feel like, the episode before was like, that was the conclusion of A-Train's story.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll have to see what ends up happening with this. I mean, we're going to get Gen V season 2 first and then The Boys season 5. So we'll have to see kind of how all that works out. But I don't know, man. Not leaving this one happy.
All right. Well, let's move on.
Let's move on to something that did
hopefully
make me happy.
Something happier. Okay. Yeah.
House of the Dragon season 2 episode 6 Smallfolk.
Yes.
So this is where we're starting to get like, we've been getting through the season so far. We've been getting these little moments with Smallfolk characters and they've been kind of like building them up. And it's always been kind of like, okay, they're going to do something with these characters. What are they going to do with them? Because they're not just doing them for like the show perspective of the Smallfolk. You know, they're clearly doing more with these characters.
No, the series has never really cared about the perspective of the Smallfolk. Let's be honest. Every time you've seen a Smallfolk in the series previously, it's because they were a bastard.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones as a series has always been concerned with like the lords, you know, and the royalty.
So we have Ulf, who's the guy that was trying to say he was a Targaryen and like the rightful king or something. He was in the bar.
Yes. Yeah,
we have him. We got to see him again.
Complaining about the lack of food.
Yeah. And getting kind of a little bit manipulated into the rebellion from somebody who was clearly an agent of Missandra, or Missaria, I should say, not Missandra. And then we got to see Hugh again. He's the blacksmith that was promised provisions that are obviously not being given to him. We saw last episode him trying to take care of his sick child, and then here you see him stealing some food, or like taking some of the food that was being dropped off as part of Rhaenyra's plan. So it's like, he's on the table. What's going to end up happening with him? And then we have the two bastards of the sea snake.
Yeah.
Who we knew one of them was, had ended up saving the sea snake's life and was going to be given something. He ended up getting a position kind of against his will in the sea snake's navy or whatever. And then the other character is our first new dragon rider.
Yeah.
Our first new non-Targaryen dragon rider.
So the common thread is, and the reason why we're focusing on these characters is because they are the dragon seeds. They are they are going to be the dragon riders that Rhaenyra is looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And like this episode confirmed that Adam of Hull, one of Lord Corlys bastards, is a dragon rider. He gets sea smoke in this episode.
Which is interesting because it's like sea smoke was very much, that was the dragon of Laenor Valerian, who was Corlys' other son, his legitimate son, who is not dead, but has gone into hiding.
Yeah, and kind of like left sea smoke without a rider.
Mm-hmm.
That's why sea smoke has been just like around the area without a rider, and he kind of like sea smoke seems to have seeked out Alan of Hull because, like the whole sequence where he's like being chased by sea smoke, You
mean Adam of Hull?
Adam, that's why I said Adam of Hull. Yeah.
Okay, because there's Adam and then there's Alan.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's so easy to get confused with these names. Damn it, George. Yeah. I swear to God, there's this one scene in Harrenhal where they're talking about the Tullys and the succession, and they're like, Grover Tully is dead, and he's being succeeded by his son, like Oscar Tully. And I'm like, damn it, George, you just got these names from Sesame Street.
All the Tullys are...
Yeah, all the Tullys are like Sesame Street characters.
Next is coming in as Count Tully.
Yeah, Count Tully. Big Bird Tully. It's like, damn it, George.
Cookie Monster Tully.
Yes. But yeah, so like, Adam of Hull is a dragon rider that's confirmed, and Hugh Hammer is going to be a dragon rider, and so is the other guy we just talked about.
Ulf.
Oh, yeah, Ulf.
And we got reference to yet another dragon, but it seems to be that they're changing something in the story from the book. Like, that's what it seems to be. That they're taking a character that, because we saw Rhaena Targaryen, Daemon's youngest daughter.
Yeah.
Youngest living daughter, besides the one that was like stillborn or whatever.
Right.
She doesn't have a dragon, and she encounters a dragon who's killed a bunch of sheep and burned an area near the Eyrie where she's been sent with Rhaenyra's like children, her youngest children.
Yeah.
And that seems to be implying there's a dragon named Sheep Stealer, whose rider is somebody that was feeding the dragon sheep, was like bringing the dragon food on a constant basis and ended up gaining the dragon's trust. And it seems like they're kind of combining that character with Rhaena Targaryen.
Yeah.
They're heavily implying that she's going to go for this dragon.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's basically what the episode is about. I mean, we got some other stuff. We got like stuff with Daemon and Harrenhal. He's still having
They're finally wrapping that shit up.
He's still having these visions. This time he's having visions of, his brother Viserys.
When Aemma died, Viserys' wife, and kind of like the moment when in this vision, see, in the other ones, he was kind of pushed to doing dark things, like beheading, Rhaenyra, like in her younger form or something, as a way of him dealing with his resentment for her and stuff. But here he gets kind of a chance to like express things to his brother in his dream that he wasn't able to do in reality.
Right, yeah.
And so that's for the first time he made his dreams actually kind of interesting, in the sense that...
Express regret for how he was towards his brother in real life.
Yeah, and it kind of shows his true heart and how much he actually did care for his brother and stuff.
Yeah, I thought they were good scenes. Finally, he has a talk with Alice Rivers where she tells him
the tide will turn, or
she basically gives him a speech you think the crown is a prize to be won. It's like nobody wants it. Rhaenyra doesn't want it. Viserys didn't want it.
It's a burden.
Yeah, it's a burden.
It's a burden to be shouldered. Yeah, and
it's not something that you want to have.
Yeah, and then she also tells him that the change or the opportunities he's looking for, he just needs to wait, and that the tide will turn.
Yes,
and then we find out that Tully, the whole reason the Riverlands are under control is because Grover Tully is deathly sick. He's on his deathbed, but he's not dying yet, and his heir is unwilling to take over and make decisions while his sire is alive, his grandfather.
Yes, yeah.
And
he dies.
Yeah, and not only that, but then
his heir takes over.
Not only that, but we hear, like, you know, we even sent Alice Rivers to, mention with her medical skills, and he died. It's like, oh yeah, well, I wonder how he died.
Yeah, right, yeah, wink, wink.
You hear the rumor that Alice Rivers is the Red Woman from Game of Thrones?
I don't believe that. That's dumb. That's dumb. She's her own character.
Could be not. Who knows?
It would just be stupid.
Let's talk about lesbian seagulls.
Okay.
There's a certain scene, and I immediately heard that song from the Beavis and Butthead movie, Fly With Me, Lesbian Seagulls.
I don't know. It's such a nothing scene to me. It's like, cool. Like, okay, so these characters are gonna have like some kind of romantic relationship.
House of Dragons gone woke.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's not that. It's that I just don't know what the point of it is.
I like when the show plays with like fluidity and sexuality. Like with a character might have a gay relation, but it's not necessarily defining them in that way. That they're just kind of. It feels very like ancient Roman when it does that. You know,
yeah. I mean, I'm all for Rhaenyra loving whoever she wants to love. So yeah, cool. It's just I'm saying, like, why this person specifically? Like, they've barely like interacted up to this point, and like I know like she's sharing like all this like stuff, but it's like it seems like so sudden.
I don't know. Like, I think it kind of works because it shows like a sudden change for the character of the White Worm, Mysaria, who sees Rhaenyra. We saw the moment in which her impression of Rhaenyra changed.
Yes.
Which was when she was released, and then she saw the one twin that was infiltrating, to kill Rhaenyra, and she had a change of thought. Like, it was that moment where she saw the twin and was like, oh, I need to stop this. Like, Rhaenyra's actually good. Like, she actually followed through on her promise, like, unlike anybody else. And I actually kind of respect and like her. I need to stop this. And then that moment that kind of brought them more together. And then she has been like the only real effective tool that Rhaenyra has had recently. They sent all the food as a gift to the Smallfolk in King's Landing. That it inspired rebellion for the Smallfolk against the Greens. So it's like the things that she's doing are like the most effective things that Rhaenyra has going for her in this war right now.
Oh yeah. No, I know. And like Rhaenyra is like frustrated that she's stuck there and she's not really able to be more directly involved in what's going on.
Mm-hmm. And because of that, like I think it kind of worked because of all that. Mm-hmm. Because of the feelings, like the kind of claustrophobia that Rhaenyra is going through, being like cooped up. And of like the like newfound trust that Mysaria is having for Rhaenyra, and like the newfound respect that she really hasn't had. Like, she tells a story about how, the last time she had put faith in somebody was when she was like a little kid after her dad had raped her,
Right.
And she goes through all that, and it's like when all that kind of stuff works together, you can kind of like get the picture of how these two would become attracted to each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
I kind of liked that, but I don't know, man.
I don't hate it or anything. Like, I mean, we'll see where it goes. At this point, like, I'm just kind of indifferent. I don't hate it though, but like, it's fine. It's fine.
We got to see Aemon acting as regent. I mean, we got a little bit of that in the last episode, but a lot more so here. And we get to see the areas where he's ineffective, and also the areas in which he is not vulnerable to the same things that his brother was, to the same flattery and other manipulations that others have used on his brother. Don't work on him.
I really like that he clocked Larry's, for like the snake that he is.
Yeah,
right?
Immediately. He even fucked with him a little bit.
Yes, he did.
I particularly liked. I liked that he brought him up like his role in doing something, and Larry's was all like, oh, I'd never considered myself, and he's like, yourself in sending a message to my grandfather.
No, he wants to bring Otto back, which is, which is a good decision. So, we know, he's smart. He knows what's good. He just has like this pettiness to him.
And he's still a bit out of touch with the Smallfolk and not realizing the tragedy that's coming there, or not the tragedy, but the complications that are coming with that, with the fact that he's not properly providing for the Smallfolk and what that's going to lead to. He's like completely unaware of that. So it's like we're seeing both his strengths and weaknesses.
When he has that little talk with his brother Aegon, because Aegon woke up. I saw a Screen Rant article or something. It's like why Aegon told Aemon that like he didn't remember anything.
Because he's fucking terrified.
Yeah, I'm like it's so Aemon doesn't kill him right there.
Yeah, he's terrified. He could.
Yeah,
he's like it's like when you watch like a police movie or something, and like a police officer like does something that's like flagrantly illegal and horrible, and the person next to him's like, I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything. That's basically what his brother was doing. You know, that's what Aegon was doing.
Yeah, exactly. Aemon had like full power to just kill him there, and what is anybody else gonna? He's just gonna say, oh, he succumbed to his injuries. Yeah, Aegon's not stupid. Aegon knows like he's in danger there, so of course he's gonna lie his ass off to not be killed.
We got to see the other Lannister twin.
Yes, briefly.
He's kind of a boorish asshole.
Yep, I mean, he's a Lannister. He's a rich kid.
Yeah, we've been used to Tyland, and now we got to see Jason Lannister, which I believe we saw Jason Lannister last season. It's the same actor.
Yeah,
it's playing Tyland and Jason. They're twins. But we've been seeing Tyland a lot last season and a lot this season, whereas I think we saw Jason like once last season, and this is our first time seeing him this season.
Yeah.
And we get to see just kind of, he immediately is making demands of the crown, setting conditions for his loyalty, and just stomping all over the goodwill of his host. So it's kind of interesting to see how that's playing out and the frustration that it's going to be bringing to Aemon.
Oh, for sure.
What else is there to talk about? There are two other things I just thought of. And they're related. For the first time in this series, we're seeing the influence of Essos. So Essos being the continent to the east of Westeros. We have two different things that kind of played into that for the first time. Like we never even, I don't think, heard
the triarchy.
Yeah, right? The triarchy is the first one.
They start planning to let the triarchy, hire mercenaries in a triarchy to mess with the sea snake and break up his blockade.
And then we also got a bit where the city of Pentos offered to take in Rhaena Targaryen and Rhaenyra's children.
Yes,
and their dragon and their eggs and everything. And we know that Rhaena's not just guarding Rhaenyra's children, but she's guarding those 3 eggs. And we know where those 3 eggs end up.
Oh, that's true.
Those are Daenerys' eggs, and she got them from the Lord of Pentos at the time.
That's right, yeah.
In Game of Thrones. So, I don't know what's gonna happen there. Those eggs are eventually gonna make it to Pentos, but it looks like Rhaena wants to stay behind. She wants to try to make a go for that dragon. I don't really know too terribly much I know a few things that haven't happened yet in the story that are in the book. But not a lot. I try not to learn that stuff, but some of it I just end up finding anyways.
I know some things. I know some small things.
Yeah. Some of that stuff is stuff that I find out because I have to do the show notes. So as I'm trying to fill out the show notes and double check things and get the names of dragons right and stuff, you end up stumbling upon other details.
Oh yeah. If you're looking this stuff up, it's hard not to get some stuff, come across some things
that you maybe didn't want to know.
But then again, you say the show could bend and swerve in different directions from what was written, so you don't know.
A perfect example again being Rhaena maybe going after Sheepstealer, who's a dragon.
Yeah, or even what happened when Rhaenys was killed, by Aemon's dragon in the book, or as it's told in the book, supposedly Aegon and Aemon teamed up to attack Rhaenys, and then Rhaenys was killed and Aegon was brutally injured from Rhaenys' dragon, Aemon. Yeah, the book never says Aemon attacked him.
Yeah. They kind of did that the same way they did the death of Daemon's wife.
Yeah.
In season 1, where people said oh, he had nothing to do with her death, and it's well, the book was kind of written like a history, and you can imply that not all of the history is actually known by the people who write write the books.
Yeah,
Or,
yeah,
you
exactly.
know, and so certain things can be gotten wrong. And the way they played that with the dragon scene that you're referring to with Aemond and Aegon fighting Rhaenys,
Yeah.
is that nobody's saying like, oh, Aemond, what
Nobody's
have you
saying
done?
they weren't there.
Yeah.
They weren't. Yeah, nobody. Yeah, exactly. Nobody's saying that Aemond. Like nobody knows Aemond had a role in it except for Aegon. And again,
And us,
that's
the
kinda,
audience now, yeah.
and us, the audience. And again, that's kind of like underlined in this episode where Aemond is interrogating Aegon, getting him to say like he doesn't remember anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the implication is like history doesn't know or like never learns that Aemond like attacked his brother.
I think that's pretty much everything that happened in this episode. I guess, well, there was the riot that happened that was kind of spurred on by Rhaenyra's gift.
Yes,
To,
yes.
you know,
like the gift works, you know?
Yeah.
Because again, like there was, you know, a lot of like unrest because of the food situation in King's Landing, you know.
And people who are clearly agents of Viserion were really heavily pushing the narrative of like, you know, oh,
Yeah,
I had
like-
some girls and they were over at the castle and they said they were having all this food and they were in wine and they were
Yeah.
celebrating and like building up the resentment of other characters that were overhearing that, you know?
Right, and just saying like, oh, King Viserys, he never let the small folk go without, but this
Yeah.
new king,
But he's gone and his
Yeah.
rightful heir is, you know, like the way
Yeah,
they
yeah.
phrased that, you know, very like manipulative.
yes,
And then the last thing we talked about, I kind of didn't like this because it was just too fucking obvious. And
Uh-huh.
that is the death of Sir Stephen Darkland. He's the guy that tried to become the writer for Sea
Oh
Smoke.
yeah, no, I agree. It was obvious from the moment you seen him. You
Yeah.
knew like he was a patsy who was just there to get killed. to
Especially
just-
the second they said, you know, you have to know before you do this that you're putting your life on the line. It's like, well, now he's dead.
I'm
like,
so-
obviously
I'm
he's
sorry,
dead.
like I hate to say it, but like just looking at him,
He just
you could
looks like a
tell-
dying character.
Yeah, he just looked like the kind of guy that like TV producers aren't going to cast as a heroic dragon rider in the first place.
See, what you could do is if you pause the scene where Rhaenyra's talking to him and you zoom in on her eyes, you can actually see her reflection in her eyes. You can see the reflection of him in her eyes, and he's wearing a red shirt.
Yes. Yeah. It was so obvious. I don't.
It made it when they did the whole scene, all the build up to it. It just felt like a little like, oh, just get to it. We know he's gonna die.
Yeah, the whole build up and the whole like teasing, like, oh, he's gonna let him ride it. I'm like, no, he's gonna kill him. And he
It
did.
was kind of cool that they had the one, it wasn't just him that died, it was also one of the dragon, keepers or whatever, the people that work with the dragons.
Yeah, dragon
And that they
keepers.
keep these dragon glass daggers on them. It's like, well, why do they keep this on them? Well, we see why they keep them on them. Because he's burning alive and slits his own throat with it, you know?
Oh,
and
yeah.
other
yeah.
metals would have melted away or been too hard to hold, but the dragon glass stays cool and doesn't melt, so he's able to do that. So I thought that was a kind of a cool little touch.
I thought it was
but-
very cool. I mean, that scene kind of like serves to like depress Rhaenyra, like about her plan. Like, oh, okay, well, guess that plan's
Yeah.
not going to work out. The whole dragon rider thing.
I think it's just there really to kind of put tension on the idea of like somebody trying to become a dragon
Is this
rider.
going? Yeah, exactly. Like to showcase like how fraught with peril it actually is.
Yeah, but it just
Like-
made it too obvious because it's like, oh, now that they've mentioned this, they have to do it.
Yeah.
Like they
Oh,
can't
yeah.
not. If they don't do it, then like any tension from saying that is gone. And the only moment I had doubt in that was when I realized it was Sea Smoke that they were trying to tame and not like Vermithor.
You know what?
And I
would
was
have
like,
been-
maybe,
You know what?
maybe
You know-
Sea Smoke because he's a minor dragon. He's a much lesser dragon, you know?
You know what would have been effective if they took a character that they've been teasing, you know, or focusing on, like one of these characters, like Hugh Hammer or
Mhm.
like Adam Hall or Ulf, you know, like maybe not like one of them three, but maybe like have like a fourth character that you focus on,
or even
and
a bigger
se-
character that they wouldn't
Yeah.
have done it with, like Reyna.
like have a character that you focused on for a few episodes of the season, and then have them like come there and like get killed by the dragon. It would have had more impact because you
Mhm.
wouldn't be like thinking, oh, okay, well this person that they've been focusing on is surely going to die in the sea. Like you would kind of like be hopeful. You'd be more hopeful than just like rando we just shoved in front of you for like the sea.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was probably the only weak part of the whole episode.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And it was still better than a lot of the
I
stuff
agree.
in The Boys
yeah,
this
it was
season.
oh yeah, that was the worst part of this episode, just because it was so obvious.
It's almost like I was almost pulling for him not not to die just because it was so obvious he was going to die.
Oh, same.
Not because I liked him or anything, but just because it's like, it's so obvious he's going to die.
Like him? He just showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, who is this person?
He was in a previous scene, but just very briefly in a previous episode.
Yeah.
His father was the guy that Kristen Cole beheaded.
Oh, okay.
And remember, he asked about his father. He said, "What about the state of my father?" or something. And they said, "Oh, sadly, he was executed."
Yeah.
So that was the only time we've seen this character before then, but it wasn't enough. They could have done a little bit more. Maybe they could have just built him up more, rather than even just doing a different character.
Oh yeah, I agree.
But that's it for House of the Dragon this week. We are not going to be talking about House of the Dragon next week, because next week is our 150th episode of OnScreen. And so as usual, what we do every 25 episodes is we play a round of Advocates of Great Entertainment. And this week we're doing a little bit of a repeat, because we did one, we called it a regret watch. And what we did is we said, let's pick something that we haven't watched to represent. Rather than going like, this is one of my favorite movies and I'm going to pick it to represent, this is something that I'm ashamed that I haven't seen. Why haven't I seen this? I've never gotten around to it, and it's time to rectify that. And we did a regret watch, Advocates of Great Entertainment, and we said, let's do that again. I think we were just thinking there's some stuff that we haven't seen and it's time to see it. So let's get to that. And so we each made a pick, something that we haven't seen that's kind of a regret watch. Mine's a bit more recent, but it's something I've been meaning to get to, and I just don't know why I haven't watched it yet. And it's actually tied to something else that we did on a different Advocates of Great Entertainment, and that's where I'm going to get to it right now. My pick is Living, which is available on Netflix. Living is a remake of Ikiru, which we also covered on an Advocates of Great Entertainment. I had seen Ikiru though. That was one of my favorite movies. It's my favorite Akira Kurosawa movie. I really loved it. I'd heard about Living, heard it was really good, that it did some interesting new things with the idea, that it was different enough to be worthwhile, and that it was just a really well-made movie. And I'd been wanting to watch it for a while. It's been out for a few years, and I just haven't gotten around to it, just being busy with other stuff. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to finally watch this. And it ties in because we did cover Kiru before on this podcast. So let's do Living. Let's talk about Living. So that's my pick, and it's available on Netflix. Tell us about your pick.
My pick is Fargo. Despite the fact that we've discussed the show on the podcast, I've seen season show. I have actually, to this day, still haven't seen the original movie that inspired the show. And it's equally embarrassing because, I consider myself a fan of the Coen brothers. The Big Lebowski is one of my all-time favorite movies. I love No Country for Old Men. I just never got around to watching this movie. It's regretful that I did it.
Yeah. We talked about this before the podcast. There are actually quite a few Coen brother movies that you and I have not seen, that both of us haven't seen. And we've talked about
so I'm gonna have to fix that.
We need to fix that in general, but Fargo's a big one.
Yeah.
Fargo's one of the most iconic.
Fargo is the
movies from the Coen
movie
brothers.
That put them on the map, really.
Yeah.
That's the one that was really big when it came out. And I just I never watched it.
Yeah. So Fargo is available on Max. So check that out. Tune in next week. We'll be talking about both of those movies as our main topic. The week after that, we are going to close out House of the Dragon Season 2 and talk about the final 2 episodes of that season. We're not talking about that next week. We're talking about that in 2 weeks, because next week is Advocates time, which I'm excited for. So I hope you guys look forward to that too. And if you want to watch along with us, just watch Living on Netflix and Fargo on Max, and you'll be ready for our conversation next week on Advocates of Great Entertainment for our 150th episode, which we did 300 of our old show, and we've done about 10 or so episodes of the old switcheroo before we added video games to this show. So yeah,
crazy.
We're getting up there, man.
It's wild. It feels like it took us no time at all to get to 150 of this podcast.
Yeah, definitely. So everybody tune in for that. It'll be a fun episode and a fun discussion. So stay tuned for that. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this week's podcast. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can follow Will. He is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our website, thetotalscreen.com. If you go to our website and open up a container story for any of our podcast episodes and scroll down to the very bottom, the very last paragraph, you'll find all of the links to our SoundCloud page, our RSS feed, everything like that, all of our social accounts. It's all there. so you can do that then. You can also subscribe to this podcast through your favorite podcast client of choice, like Apple Podcast or Pocket Cast, and the entire backlog of our podcast, as well as additional content from our various videos and other things we've done over the years, is available on our YouTube channel, so check that out as well. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Little Screen. Visit our website at thelittlescreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.